In this video, let's talk about the Chiefs possibly being slept on by many in this Super Bowl matchup. Mecole Hardman being placed on IR and another player we haven't seen in quite a while taking his place. Then look at Kansas City's favorite referee, Carl Cheffers, as he will be the head ref in this upcoming Super Bowl matchup. But first, how about those? All right, first up, the Chiefs arrived in Arizona yesterday, touchdown via a plane, looking fly. And at the same time, the Pro Bowl took place, which, I don't know, was an interesting mix between 3 flag football games, some random competitions in between those games. Then they added up all the points from the games and all the side games to decide the winner, AFC or NFC. And it was NFC 35, AFC 33, and I think I found this to be more entertaining than the wannabe football game it was last go around, in which they were dressed out fully in pads, yet the game was 2-hand touch. And if you thought the Pro Bowl was indeed better this year than last, but still has a way to go, make sure to hit that like button like Jalen Ramsey hit Tyreek in flag football yesterday. It was pretty glorious. And then let's rejoice at the fact that nobody from the Kansas City Chiefs played in the Pro Bowl, because you already know the deal. The Chiefs are preparing for the Super Bowl, the big game. So let's freaking go. And on that note, here's a couple interesting things for you all. First up, here's a picture of the field that will be rolled into the stadium, I believe, here shortly, eventually, sometime this week. Chiefs on one side, Eagles on the other. Looks pretty sweet to me. And then, did you guys know that Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts will form the youngest Super Bowl starting QB matchup of all time? That's right. Their combined age of 51 years and 337 days old will indeed make them the youngest QB matchup in Super Bowl history. I mean, it makes sense. These guys are both young, both thriving, both doing well, and Tom Brady is almost as old as their combined ages, which is more than likely why he finally, hopefully, Lord willingly, retired. And hey, if you're still looking for Super Bowl tickets, you got to check out the sponsor of today's video, TicketIQ. They have 0 fees. That's right, ZERO fees, which is huge for an event like the Super Bowl, where checkout fees on sites like StubHub can exceed $2,000 per ticket. Wow. Plus, get $300 off all orders of $5,000 or more with promo code SB300, and $600 off all orders $10,000 or more using code SB600. No fee tickets currently start at $5,707 in section 421, row 22 at State Farm Stadium. And since the last time the game was in Arizona, prices have only dropped on average 10% between the conference championships and the game, so a significant drop is not guaranteed. And with that being said, you can also follow and DM TicketIQ on Twitter for exclusive deals and promos separate from the ones above. I've linked their site as well as their socials below, so check them out. I guarantee you they will have the best prices for this year's Super Bowl. All right, a lot of people are talking about the fact that the Chiefs are not the better team on paper. Many are saying it's the Eagles on paper overall, though the Chiefs can still have a chance if they play an incredible game. I mean, okay, I guess, whatever, that is fine. All I know is both teams are the 1 seed in their conference with the same win-loss record, the same amount of total points scored, the same amount of yards per carry, and the same amount of postseason takeaways. And this game should be an absolute banger. However, I did find something interesting here about the Eagles. Timo, one of those from PFF, shared that the 4 best offenses the Eagles played this season were the Cowboys with Dak, the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, the Jags, Trevor Lawrence, and the Lions, Jared Goff, and 3 of those teams dropped 33 or more points on the Eagles. He then said, I don't think this would be worth the tweet if we didn't have the same observation from last year when the Eagles defense was dominant against bad offenses, but bad against good offenses. Might be nothing and just a small sample, but I found it interesting enough to look into a little bit more, and in case you were curious, here's the scores of those 4 games. The Lions had the 5th highest scoring offense, and the score was Lions 35, Eagles 38. The Jags had the 10th highest scoring offense, and the score was Jags 21, Eagles 29. More on that in a minute. The Packers were ranked 17th and put up 33. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he can get it done. Still losing by 7, though, as the Eagles put up 40. And then the Cowboys, they had the 4th highest scoring offense and put up 40 points on the Eagles, beating them by 6 points. But to be fair, the Eagles had Gardner Minshew in at the time because Hurts was dealing with the shoulder injury. But either way, there you have it. And I'm not about to say the Eagles didn't play other difficult teams or that they're not a good team or anything like that. But against those 4 teams with pretty high-powered offenses, most of them dropped at least 33. The Jags were the only ones that didn't. They put up 21, but Trevor Lawrence threw an interception and fumbled 4 times, losing all 4 of those fumbles. And then James Robinson fumbled once as well. So the Jags had 6 turnovers in that game. Good God all mighty. Anyway, I say all that to say this. I'm not sure the Eagles have played a team as good as the Chiefs, man, especially their offense. Patrick Mahomes, him. I don't care if one ankle is at 80% or not. He's going to be the best QB that they have faced all season, and it's not close. The Chiefs have the #1 scoring offense in the league, the most total yards in the league, the most first downs, the most passing TDs, the most net yards per attempt, the highest score percentage per drive, and they score a touchdown in the red zone 70.51% of the time, which is the second most in the league overall. But over the last 5 games, listen to this, they have scored a red zone touchdown 82.3% of the time. That is freaking high. And against NFC teams this season, the Chiefs have played really well. Their offense has averaged 35.8 points per game. Mahomes has averaged 315 yards, 2.8 passing TDs, and about a half of an interception, 0.6. And on the ground, the Chiefs have averaged 124.75 rushing yards and 1.6 rushing TDs per game. And that's an average of 439.6 total yards and 4.4 total TDs per game. Therefore, I think it's safe to say that the Chiefs offense could very well put up quite a bit of points in this game if their average against NFC teams continues in this upcoming game, at least. And I know we'll talk about this in a later video, but the Eagles could very well keep the score overall a bit lower because of how long their drives could take. They run the ball a whole lot, so they could drain clock. And the Chiefs in their own right could have long drives as well. Slow, methodical, calculated drives. So maybe the game could be lower scoring overall. But however, what if I told you the Chiefs could very well drop at least a 30 bomb against this team? There is a way that they could do it. One key thing to look out for, though, is how healthy the Chiefs offense is able to get before that game, particularly the wide receiver core. Like, how is Juju Smith-Schuster's knee? What about Kadarius Toney's ankle? Justin Watson's no longer sick, so that's good. He's going to play. But Mecole Hardman is officially shut down for the season, and that's not a surprise if you watched my last video. Coach Reid said he doesn't think he's going to make the Super Bowl. And for Coach Reid to say that in a presser when they normally keep their cards close to their chest, I mean, that was big. And it was confirmed today officially. Mecole Hardman was placed on IR, ending his season and rendering him out in the Super Bowl, and to take his place on the 53-man roster, a man we haven't seen in quite some time. Running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, he was activated from IR and is now back on the roster. And I don't think this means too terribly much for Pacheco or McKinnon, other than the fact that CEH could be leaned upon as a veteran depth piece to rotate in. You can say what you want about CEH, but the team, the coaches have shown time and time again, they value CEH more overall than they do Ronald Jones, just as a running back and how they operate in this offense, catching passes out of the backfield, blocking, and running the ball. Therefore, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ronald Jones potentially inactive this Sunday and having Pacheco, McKinnon, and CEH suiting up, but we will have to wait and see. However, something we will not have to wait and see about is this lovely info, and that is Kansas City's favorite referee of all time. Carl, I am an absolute geriatric joke. Cheffers, yes, the guy who called roughing the passer on Chris Jones as he sacked Derek Carr and took the ball away from him in one fell swoop, and the guy who officiated the Chiefs versus Bucs Super Bowl, in which the Chiefs were penalized 11 times for 120 yards compared to the Bucs only getting 4 flags thrown their way for 39 yards. Yes, that little bum. Well, I'm sorry to tell you all this, but he is the leading ref in the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's right. It was decided, though, weeks ago, before anyone knew who was even gonna be in the Super Bowl, unless you are the moon landing was fake, the earth is flat, Bigfoot is real, and the NFL is scripted, frail-minded type of an individual, then you do you, believe what you want. And while I don't sit in any of those camps, I did find the fact that Cheffers is officiating the big game a bit problematic. I said something along the lines of, regardless of who makes the Super Bowl, Cheffers is not a good one to ref the game because he isn't the best at just letting them play and would much rather throw flags. In fact, I think this guy may have a flag fetish and is more flag happy on average than every ref out there today. Listen to this. Cheffers ranked first in total penalties given per game, 12.59, and total yards in penalties given per game, 109.94 yards this season. He's the highest, most flag throwing individual out there. And during Cheffers' 12 playoff games since 2010, the under on the total score of the game is 10-1. So bet the under, please and thank you. And since 2019, the underdogs in Cheffers' games are 42, 24-2 against the spread, which is the second best for underdogs during that time span. And in his 2 Super Bowls called, the underdogs went 2-0. And for the Chiefs specifically, they've had 94 penalties called on them for 923 yards this season. And in the 2 games that Cheffers officiated when the Chiefs played, he called 21 penalties for 201 yards, which is 22% of the Chiefs' total penalties and yards this season. 22% of their penalties came in 2 games. And here's the kicker. In those 2 games, the Chiefs saw 21 penalties. Meanwhile, their opponents only saw 9 penalties combined, which means the Chiefs saw over twice as many flags as their opponents. Okay, so by now we all know that Cheffers loves throwing flags, possibly more than he loves his own family. And here's something else a wee bit concerning, and that is this. The Chiefs secondary loves, or seemingly loves, receiving flags. That's right, sometimes they just can't help themselves because they are the #1 ranked penalized team in the NFL for defensive pass interference. I mean, some of that's just the young secondary and the aggressive way that they play, but their opponent, the Eagles, they were ranked on the opposite side of the scale, ranking 31st out of 32 teams in pass interference called on them. And Warren Sharp noted that this is a big discrepancy that favors the Eagles in arguably the most impactful penalty category. And on top of that, Carl Cheffers loves to call defensive pass interference. Yeah, buddy, his 21 pass interferences handed out this season was tied for 2nd most of any in the league. So, have I done a good job in causing you a little bit of worry? If so, good. It is a bit worrisome to me, but you guys know me here on this channel. I'm not going to sit here and blame officiating. I'm not going to cry real actual tears like Bengals fans did last week. I don't do that. That's not how I roll. So while it is a bit worrisome to me, the good news here is that the Chiefs are 8-2 in their past 10 games with Cheffers officiating in spite of everything I just shared with you all. Did you know that? Because I did not, and when I looked it up, I thought, wow, that's actually pretty good. So while Cheffers has seemingly enjoyed throwing way more flags the Chiefs' way compared to their opponents on average, the Chiefs have still won 80% of those games and therefore can still win this game, even with extra flags called on them. Am I guaranteeing that a lot of flags are going to be called on them? Well, no, but there is a chance they do see a little bit of extra laundry on the field thrown their way, especially considering Carl Cheffers more than likely will never forget that Travis Kelce said this about him after the Chiefs' playoff loss in 2017.
The ref number 51 shouldn't even be able to wear a zebra jersey ever again. He shouldn't even be able to work a Foot Locker.
That was pretty savage, man, not gonna lie. But with all that being said, what do you guys think about Cheffers officiating the Super Bowl? Does this concern you at all? Or are you confident that the Chiefs can still get it done regardless of who's officiating if they play a great game? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?